banned your daughter from prom? That's like a really important event for teenagers. Look, either you're overreacting or she did something really bad. Happy apple picking day! Quick recap for our new friends. People send in stories to my subreddit r/amIthebadapple where they're not sure if they acted appropriately or not. We read them and we decide if they're a good apple, a bad apple, or a crab apple. Sometimes we agree and sometimes we don't because we all come from different branches of the apple tree and have different life experiences. And that's where civil conversation comes in, right down in the comment section. Sometimes you might learn something new, sometimes you might teach somebody something new, but as I always say, you're never too old to learn a new thing. So, without further ado, let's get started with this week's episode of Am I the Bad Apple? Let's go apple picking! Apple number 1. Am I the bad apple for making kids play chess correctly? I work in the after-school day camp in the summer childcare program. I'm a quite respectable chess player. I mean, I've placed top 10 in national scholastic tournaments several times as a child. And now, these kids at camp are obsessed with chess. Unfortunately, however, most of them either learned from a different staff member who comes in when I go home and who can't play very well, or from their family members who also clearly don't play very well. The kids also seem to have formed up these weird, strange rules as a group. They won't set up the board correctly, and they tell each other and me that we have to call it before we make certain perfectly legal moves. Then they make illegal moves and claim they won. They're learning, and I would be totally fine with it if they just didn't know the rules. But, for example, in chess, if your king is attacked, you have to move it. If you can't, it's checkmate and you lost. But now the kids claim that if their opponent didn't say check, it's not check and it can just be ignored. Some are even denying that checkmate is win if the player says I won instead of checkmate. I've told them a million times how to set up a board, but they just say no. I told them I'm not playing with them if they won't play correctly, starting with the board setup. And if anyone has doubts about the rules, I tell both players who is right and then make the person I ruled against quit if they won't follow the rules. I think this is perfectly reasonable, but the kids insist I really don't know how to play chess and call me nasty names, even though they're the ones that begged I play with them. Other adults there say they're just playing for fun, just let them play, blah, 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 blah. But a lot of these kids plan on joining chess club next year, and if they don't know the rules but think they do, then they're in for a very unpleasant awakening. So, am I the bad apple? Yeah. They're kids, just let them play. You're there as a camp counselor. Your job is to make sure they're safe and having fun. It's not to tell them that they can't play a game because they're not playing it the way that you want them to play it or the way that it's supposed to be played. It doesn't matter. So what? They're playing their own make-believe version of chess. Who cares? You don't go to a pool and tell a bunch of kids playing mermaids, hey kids, mermaids aren't real. You can't be in the pool if you're doing that. No, they're doing their own little game. So what? If they join chess club whenever they're old enough to go to a school that has a chess club and then they get told that's not how you play. It's fine. They just realize that's not how you play. I get that chess is very important to you and you're clearly very proud of your accomplishments in that field, and that's awesome. Your job is to not tell them they can't play or can't play the way that they want to play. Like if all the kids are in agreement that this is the way that they want to play, you're the jerk for not letting them do that. Now if there were kids who were like, I want to play correctly, and other kids weren't playing by the rules and they were like, no Jimmy, you can't do that during the game, blah, 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 then I might step in as a camp counselor and say, oh Jimmy, you can't play by the rules and it's upsetting other people, so I guess maybe we shouldn't be playing chess right now. But all of these kids are in agreement that this is how we want to play and we want you to play with us, and if you don't want to do that because it frustrates you that they're not playing correctly, then go sit with a different set of kids, okay? Like that, you don't have to play it incorrectly if you don't want to. But if that's how they want to play, just let them. You didn't tell me how old these kids are, but if they're in a summer camp program or a day camp when school is out, they're not teenagers. These have to be elementary level kids. Some elementary level kids can't comprehend the correct way to play chess. So who are you to decide that they just shouldn't play if they can't grasp it? Like, that's just rude. Like, just let them play. let them play. You're being a jerk. You're being uptight. I'm going bad apple. I think you need to like chill out. These kids are obviously not coming for your title and they're not at the level that you're at. So just like, I don't see what a big deal it is. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe someone out there can let me know what they think, but I think you're being a little much. I'm going bad apple. Apple number 2. Am I the bad apple for refusing to do chores for my wife? I, 28 male, have been married to my wife, Bella, 28 female, for 5 years. We both met and went to the same college. She was pre-law while I was doing animation. She graduated top of her class and went to a T20 law school. While she was in law school, I had a lot of trouble finding a job in my field, or really any job at all. I ended up working in a kitchen as a line cook to help support us in addition to all the loans that she took out. But I took the job so that she could go to school and focus on her classes. Bella got a really good job in a completely different state after she graduated, so I quit my job and haven't gotten another one since. We have no kids, we have a nice house for the 2 of us. We're overall living very comfortably. Bella works long hours, so I take care of most of the household things. Cleaning, cooking, grocery shopping, repainting the walls, doing other housework and renovations around the place. In the last 6 months, Bella started referring to me as her house husband around our friends and family. I've mostly been letting it go, but every single time it bothers me. I'm already insecure about not being able to find a good job, and it makes me feel even more inadequate. I finally got to the end of my rope when we were with her mother on Sunday, who already doesn't really like me. And they were talking about taking care of the lawn and the garden, and when she said,
"Thank goodness I have a house husband for that, or I'd never find the time."
And then she smiled at me. Then they both laughed. I was humiliated. I didn't say anything at first, but I guess she could tell that I was really upset because she asked me what was wrong. I told her she needed to stop emasculating me and making it seem like I don't contribute to anything around the house. We were arguing back and forth, and she told me she would stop calling me a house husband if I was
Just gonna get upset about it.
but that it wasn't an untrue term and I needed to stop being so insecure. Bella refuses to apologize. I feel like she doesn't fully appreciate and value me as her husband. So I've stopped doing all the chores until she apologizes, and she's beyond pissed off. She's been coming home and cooking dinner only for herself and doing the chores that I haven't, and then taking off to spend the night at a friend's house. I was talking to my sister about it, and she told me that Bella's definitely in the wrong, but that I was also being immature by my response. The thing is though, if I give in, she's gonna keep thinking that what she's doing is okay. I can't have that. I don't even know anymore. Am I the bad apple? First of all, I want to tackle this whole label house husband. I don't understand why you think that term is emasculating. Avery's a house husband. He loves that term. He like tells people that all the time. Like, I'm just not understanding why being a house husband is such a bad thing. Like, you hold the house down. You take care of the house and the home. Like, you help make it a home. Why is house husband so bad and housewife isn't? I don't personally see either of those terms as like bad. Cause like, you're not a stay-at-home dad, you don't have kids. So like for me, housewife and stay-at-home mom, like the only difference is whether there's like kids or not. So like stay-at-home dad and house husband, it's very similar, just like one has kids and one doesn't. And like stay-at-home parents are amazing human beings. Like, that is a job, okay? So I'm really not understanding why that term in general is bad, but also why you would consider it emasculating. I don't know what you want to be called. Like, are you embarrassed that you're doing housework? Or are you embarrassed that she's the breadwinner? Because that's really what it's feeling like. Like, you don't want people to know that you don't have like an outside job. Because I don't want to say you don't have a job, because like doing the house stuff is a job. Like, that is a lot of work. And I feel like it's one that you're embarrassed of and you just don't want people to know that's what you do. Like, that's how it's coming off to me. But second of all, she's talking to her mom about, thank goodness I have this guy, because I wouldn't be able to get this stuff done if it wasn't for him. Like, I don't have time for that. And you're like,
Why are you emasculating me?
what do you mean? She's talking about how thankful she is for you. Like, I don't understand. Am I missing something here? Like, I feel like it just kind of goes back to this idea that the man has to have the job and the man has to make money and blah, 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 blah. And if that's what's bothering you, then go find a job. And on top of that, like, you haven't even communicated to her, I don't like this. Like, oh, well, I've been letting it go. But she does it all the time. I don't say anything. Like, this is the first time you've said anything about it, and she's just as confused as we are. Now, I will say, what I don't like is when she clearly found out that it bothered you. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that term made you feel bad about yourself. I didn't intend for that to happen. Like, I think she should have been able to say that. Because there have definitely been things that I thought that I was hyping Avery up or something along those lines that he didn't take it that way. And like, even though I didn't mean for him to take it poorly, I 100% apologize that he felt that way. Even if you don't intend to make someone feel bad, but you do, like, I'm sorry that this made you feel that way. I didn't mean for that to, like, that's polite. So for the wife, I would probably go like crabapple, because she's like, oh, I've really upset you. I don't personally see it that way, but it's clearly upset you. Sorry, like, and she just won't acknowledge that. Like, she won't acknowledge how much even though I agree with her that I think it's weird you feel that way. Like, she doesn't value you when she's like bragging about how, like, oh, thank God he does that. Like, I wouldn't be able to get this done without him. Like, I don't understand, and I won't understand. Like, I clearly just won't understand your point of view. But then to say, well, my job in the family is to take care of the house while she goes to work and she makes the money to pay for the house, but I'm just not gonna do all those things because I'm upset with her. Like, if the roles were reversed and you were working and you were mad at her and, oh, well, I'm just gonna withhold money from her until she apologizes. Like, that's gross. That's abusive. That would be called financially abusive. So it's not acceptable when it's reversed either. Like, to try and manipulate an apology by not doing your share of the work, because that's what it is. Her share of the work is going to work and making the money, and your share of the work is being at home and taking care of the house. That's a partnership. That is two people doing their jobs. And purposefully making her do both jobs to try and force her into apologizing, I think that's gross behavior. And I'm not saying that she's right for not apologizing for hurting your feelings either. I just think that you being manipulative in that way and now not pulling your weight in the house and purposefully making her days harder than they already are.
Well, she's coming home and she's only making dinner for herself.
She just went to work all day and is coming home. Why? You're surprised she's not making dinner for you? Why would she? You're being a child. You're sitting home all day, purposefully not contributing to the house while she goes to work all day, comes home. You're probably watching TV and playing video games because you're purposefully not doing the chores. She's coming home doing everything. She only made dinner for herself and then she's leaving. I wouldn't want to have to sit there and look at you either. I think you're being a child and a jerk and 100% of the bad apple. 100%. Now, again, I still think she should apologize for hurting your feelings, but you're being a bad apple, like, for sure. Apple number 3. Am I the bad apple for asking customers to leave? Most of this past year, I was working as a busser at a restaurant. I'd often work the closing shifts, which mean that I'd have to wait sometimes for unnecessarily long amounts of time for all the customers to leave so that I could ensure all the tables were clean and close the restaurant. Many of these customers stayed long after paying, so they're just sitting there talking. Maybe it's just me, but I find that incredibly rude since you're wasting the times of the employees who have to be there. In the past, what I do is I just stand near their table with my bus bucket, hoping they'd get the memo, but that didn't always work out too well. And I knew I was being passive aggressive, but so what? They were being rude. So one day in April of this year, I was working the closing shift. It was 10:05 p.m., 5 minutes past closing. I noticed there was a party of 5 or 6 people who had paid 10 minutes ago. I figured that was more than enough time, so I walked up to them prepared to just let them know, hey, so you know, we are closed, and that was all I was gonna say to them. I ran this by my dad, and he agreed. He thought it would be polite enough. So I walk up to the table, and I didn't even need to say anything before they acknowledged why I was there and promptly left. I said, oh, it's all good. Everything seemed to be amicable, and they just took the hint and left. Then a manager, who's not even the main manager, she's just gunning for a promotion, caught me doing this, and after they left said,
we don't ask customers, are you all set?
I was dumbfounded by this because A, I didn't even say anything to the table. They just got the hint when I walked up to them, and I wasn't even planning on saying that to them. Her thing actually sounded a lot nicer than what I was gonna say. But after all this, I just scoffed at her getting mad at me for doing something that I thought was perfectly fine, and she just retreated to the bathroom, told me to stop laughing, but that just made me laugh even harder. The next day, I told some of my coworkers about the incident, and they sided with me. But 2 days later, during my next shift, I was recounting the story to another coworker, not realizing the manager was right there listening, and when I noticed her, I said to her, "Hey, I just thought it was funny that you were getting mad at me over something you should have been thanking me for." Of course I was being half-hearted, as I didn't actually expect to be thanked for it. I mean, maybe she didn't understand my sarcasm, but the whole situation, given everything I've already mentioned, was once again so dumbfounding to me that honestly at this point, I didn't even care if she did or not. Everybody I tell the story to generally agrees that I was right. I'm generally a rule follower, like almost to a T, but I'll openly admit that even if it isn't a rule at most restaurants, I'd break it again if put in a similar situation like that. Maybe I'm the bad apple, but to me, there's no bigger crime than wasting somebody's time, especially when it's 10 p.m. and I just want to go home and rest. Given I didn't know it was a rule, and given the fact that the people I talked to said what I was gonna say was polite enough, was I the bad apple? Yes! I think you're misunderstanding the idea of, yeah, if you're gonna go up to someone and say something, I guess that's polite enough, and the fact that the whole thing is not polite. I worked in the service industry for 6 or 7 years. It is a thing. You don't ask people to leave. Now, you might be able to convince me that if it's an hour after close and people are still sitting there partying, whatever, you might be able to convince me going up and saying, "Hey, is there anything else I can get for you guys? We are trying to close up right now. Like we closed about an hour ago." If it's been that kind of amount of time, 5 minutes after closing? Are you serious? Before the keyboard warriors start, I'm not saying people should stay after closing, okay? I think it's very disrespectful whether you're in a restaurant or a store or wherever and you're like, "Oh,
It's closing time, but I'm already here. I'll just be like 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes.
No, that's rude. I can't stand the people who show up to restaurants or stores like 5, 10 minutes before close and they're like,
Oh yeah, perfect. I'm in the door. I made it.
"Made what? Made me mad?" But this isn't what happened. They were there 5 minutes after close. 5 minutes. I don't care what you were gonna say to them. Going up to them in general is wrong. Sitting near tables with a bucket and mop is wrong. That's not polite. That is like a universal, just known thing in restaurants. Yes, it stinks. I understand that. And if you can't handle it, don't take the closing shift. I don't even care that when they saw you walk up to them, they already got the memo and skedaddled. Like, I don't care. You still walked up to them with the intent of trying to kick them out. Like, again, regardless of the fact that I think that it's rude for people to stay after closing, you don't do that. Honestly, because it was only 5 minutes, I'm hoping that they just honestly didn't realize what time it was, and when they saw you were like, "Oh gosh, so sorry." So I'll admit, there's been like 1 or 2 times in my life where I genuinely didn't realize that a restaurant closed earlier than what I thought that it did, and when I looked around, I was like, "Oh my gosh, are they closed?" And I looked it up, oh my gosh, they closed like 3 minutes ago. I need to get my stuff and go and get situated so they can get home. Like, I felt so bad about that. No one's perfect. We make mistakes. There are things that we don't realize. Like, it happens. But it is so unprofessional 5 minutes after close to be prepared to go up to a table and make them leave. Oh my gosh, as a server, I would have been so pissed. Oh my gosh. What if they didn't take it well and they didn't tip their server because you pissed them off? That would be a problem. Like, again, even though I can't stand when people purposefully stay long after closing, you can't convince me that the answer is for the busser to go up to them, whether they have a mop in their hand or not, and tell them that they need to leave. Like, 5 minutes after closing. Again, you could convince me if it had been an hour, not 5 minutes. Absolutely not. I don't care if they paid 10 minutes ago. 5 minutes? No. I think you're the bad apple. Are we gonna have a whole bad batch today? Like, we have 3 bad apples so far, at least for me, so a little nervous. Am I the bad apple for banning my daughter from her school's prom? Yesterday, I was informed that my daughter, Sam, was a part of a group of students who bullied another girl to the point that she had to switch schools. There was a racial aspect to this bullying, which came as a complete shock to me and my wife, because we truly did our best to raise our 3 kids to be kind and honest individuals. I don't believe that a grounding and a confiscation of electronics is harsh enough for what Sam did. So, I told Sam that she won't be allowed to participate in homecoming or attend senior prom. I also told her that she won't be getting a car for her 18th birthday like originally planned either. That's gone. Finally, I told her that she'll have to delete all of her social media accounts with either me or her mother watching. Sam begged me to allow her to go to her senior prom because it's a once-in-a-lifetime event and really wants to keep just her Instagram account because it has pictures going back years that weren't saved anywhere else. I told her if that was the case, she shouldn't have been a racist bully. My parents are temporarily staying with us while their house is undergoing renovations, and they agree that what Sam did was completely out of line and should be punished, but they think that making my daughter miss homecoming and senior prom and forcing her to delete social media is far too harsh. So, what do you guys think? Is this punishment enough? Is it too much? Am I the bad apple? We love parents that hold their kids accountable. Do you know how many parents I have interacted with who make excuses for whether it's the cheating or the not turning in the work, bullying? I've seen parents make excuses for their kids picking on other kids. It's gross behavior. So we love parents who take it seriously and realize that is unacceptable. Now we know, I say this every time, but I know the Susans and the Gretchens and the Gertrudes and the Karens, like they're all gonna get super upset if I don't say this, okay? I don't have kids. I've never had to punish a child as a parent. I'm not gonna pretend like being a teacher was anywhere near like being a parent. But if I were to ever have kids, I like the idea that the punishment should fit the crime, right? I don't know all the details of the bullying things, but knowing kids in this day and age, I feel like it's a pretty safe assumption to make that some of the bullying was happening over social media, whether they were talking about it over social media or sharing this girl's pictures with each other or actually making posts about her or group messages on the cell phones. Like, I feel like that's a pretty safe bet to make. So yeah, the idea of taking away the electronics and making her delete social media, I think that fits. I think it also fits to assume that these individuals that she's hanging out with, she can't be trusted around them because they're also partaking in bullying and they're also condoning the bullying. So I think like, hey, you can't be trusted to go to school social events with your school friends because you make bad choices when you're together. To me, that fits. Bullying is such a serious offense because the possible outcomes of that kind of treatment can be so I already feel myself getting emotional from experiences as a teacher. Oh, I didn't think it was gonna hit that hard. I'm sorry. You just never know when, oh wow, when one of these kids is going to reach their breaking point. And I think that really putting your foot down and like taking these things seriously when your kid is making someone feel that way is so important. So important. I have personally seen situations where the parents in that situation don't think it's that big of a deal, and I've seen the actions that some of these kids who are being bullied will resort to when no one steps in to help. I'm really thankful when I see parents who do take this stuff seriously. Now here is one thing that I would like to see, and you might have already done it, but I would like to put it out there for other parents who might see this, in addition to you if you have. Like maybe you have, because I feel like you have a good head on your shoulders. I think that coming up with some kind of restorative plan would be really excellent. And here is something, I was reading some of the comments, and one of them that really stuck out to me, I think is a really good idea. How, you said she can't go to homecoming and prom. Homecoming and prom are at 2 different ends of the school year. So this makes me believe that this is at a beginning of the year kind of thing. Like you're finding out about this sometime in the early fall, perhaps, because usually homecoming's around October? And then prom's in like May. So I definitely think that, as things stand now, no social media, no homecoming, no prom kind of thing. But perhaps there could be some kind of restorative plan, you know, whether it comes like inclusivity classes, seminars, just a lot of different ways to kind of make her a better person. Because here's the thing, and I've talked to a lot of people about this when it comes to cancel culture in general. When people do bad things and target groups of people and are hateful for no reason, and you just kind of take everything away from them and say, bad, you did bad, now you're getting everything taken, that doesn't make them want to do better, unfortunately. It makes them fester in their anger and sit there, and you know, when they're grounded and they have nothing and they lose their jobs or social media or privileges as a young teenager, they just sit there in their boredom and get mad, and I almost feel like sometimes it makes it worse, and they just learn to get more sneaky about it. It's not helpful. Like, it doesn't make them an ally of the people they were hating before, it makes them more of a hater. So I feel like, in general, having some kind of plan, where someone in the comments mentioned, you know, classes, books, like things like that, creating a plan that could potentially open her eyes to new perspectives and make her a better person, not just for her to get her stuff back, but for her to be a better person for society to interact with. I think that you could maybe even offer as like a, hey, if you do this and you take this seriously and we actually see you doing well, maybe we'll rethink prom. Homecoming's off the table. Sorry, you can't earn it back that fast. But if you take the year and really show some changes, find a better group of friends, make your friends be better people. Cultural sensitivity classes, read some books, like put in the work to show, like you need to prove to us that you want to become a better person and you are becoming a better person. I think that could be fair, and she's not gonna take it seriously if it's not something that she wants, you know, obviously, whether it be social media prom, like I think that, you know, is a you discretion kind of thing of what you think that the reward could be when she's done. I don't know. What do you guys think? I would love to hear in the comments, like, do you think it would be fair to offer prom as a reward, or do you think it should just be off the table no matter what and use social media? Like, I don't have kids, so I don't really have to think about these things, so I would love to know what you guys' thoughts on that is. But I 100% am all for those like little restorative ideas. But I think good apple parents, that's what I'm going with. Thank you, parents, for breaking our bad apple streak today. So that means I got 3 bad apples and 1 good apple. Did you guys get similar to me? Did you get differently than me? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. As always, you know, I don't always have the time, energy, or stamina to respond to all the comments, but I really do read as much as I can. And for your well wishes this week, I guess the idea of prom is nostalgic, so I hope you guys have some really sweet little nostalgic moments this week, just kind of thinking back to some fun times as kids or teenagers or whatever. I do that a lot actually with prom. One of my best friends, her name is Lauren. She's not on social media or anything, but sometimes you'll see her on my Instagram stories. But we went to my senior prom together. Well, like our groups did, me and her boyfriend at the time, and then me and Avery. Avery was my senior year prom date. Is it really a bad apple week if I don't mention Avery in some way, shape, or form? But anyways, I hope you have your nice little nostalgic moments this week. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you guys next week. Bye, my lovelies. Mwah.